The relationship between art and science is simultaneously really complex, but also quite simple to my mind. Science and art, to me, are two modes of inquiry, in the sense that they're two ways of asking and answering questions about the world. So from a scientific perspective, what we try to do is we try to reduce all of nature down to its very fundamental scale, down to its most constituent parts, and to try to understand the basic rules of nature. And to do that, we have to ask questions in a certain way. And then science is a set of tools that allows us to answer those questions in a very controlled way. As humans, we're curious about ourselves. We're curious about our place in the universe and our place in the world. And so the directions that you then go to try to understand that a little bit better, you go in the more artistic perspective, you end up with, paintings, sculpture, films, poetry, and then the criteria that we apply on top of that as to whether or not something is good or successful, totally and completely intuitively based. But in the scientific perspective, we also ask questions about what is our place in the universe. How old is the universe? Are we the only beings in the universe? Those are very fundamental key questions as well. But to answer them in any kind of reliable sense, we have to be very controlled, and we have to perform experiments. And then the criteria that we apply to decide whether this was a successful experiment are very different. So science and art, to me, come from a similar place in the mind, in the belly, in the human psyche. What I would say is that the research that I do is fascinating because we're trying to understand things that are literally impossible for humans to ever experience directly. You will never hold a Higgs boson in your hand. There's an ontological gap between what we want to know and what we can possibly experience. And the way that the intermediary between those two things are the scientists. So in a sense, I'm a filter that is put in between the data, the thing that we're doing, the thing we want to know, and what I can then present to the world. And the way that I present this data to the world is through charts and graphs and papers and numbers. There is some kind of choice that has to be made there. There are certain aesthetic choices that we have to make when we present this information to the world. We have to make it in a palatable sense. So I wouldn't say that that's artistic in a way, but if you think about it, it's similar in the sense that we have to make decisions about the way we present things to the world, and that conscious choice, that set of conscious choices, has some artistic components. This is my first experience collaborating with the IBSA Foundation, and I'm quite pleased to have been invited to come to this event because their reputation precedes them, and I've always been impressed with their dedication to forward-thinking science, forward-thinking scientific research, but also these programs that investigate the connections between science and other parts of society, like art, culture, things like this. And so their reputation precedes them. I'm very pleased to have been invited to this event. So far, everyone that I've met from the foundation has been, we see the world in very similar ways, which I think are synergistic ways. So I'm looking forward to this collaboration and possibly future events as well.